Welcome, welcome. You're listening to 360 Info. I'm your host, Hamptonio. To manipulate history is to manipulate consciousness. And to manipulate consciousness is to manipulate possibilities. And to manipulate possibilities is to manipulate power. Welcome, welcome. This is the last show of the year.
Yeah, and I want to add to that because I think it's an extremely important point. I mean, we get juiced, we get excited about the last week of the year, and we put on our African gear and we come out to the Kwanzas, and then the following week it's like, well, it's a memory, and then we look forward to the next Kwanzaa. But you know, it definitely is a 24/7, 365 type of thing, and we have to take those things into consideration all year long. I know I've been to a few Kwanzas, and you know, when you talk about cooperative economics and you have the vendors there, you know, it's really important that in those moments you support those folks. You know, buy something, and you know, if you got too much stuff at home like I do, you know, buy something and give it to someone else. You know, it's just important. You know, we talk about this all the time when we have conversations about economics. And, you know, we talk about the fact that the dollars in our community, they fly out as soon as they come in, you know. And when we look at other cultures and other sections of the culture of America, you know, there are other groups that when they get a dollar, they spend it with someone who looks like them, who talks like them, you know. And we have to continue that legacy within our own tradition. You know, when you think about economics, think about it, man. The wealthiest person in the history of this planet was an African man. So if you embrace that thought, then you know that we know how to do things to get paid and to create wealth. And we have to have that mindset, you know. But living here in America, our mindset is really more about being a consumer than it is being about a producer. So we run out to the store and we buy all these things. And again, I don't want to diminish the importance of the holiday that we celebrate on December 25th. But that holiday really is all about buying stuff and giving stuff away. You know, and so many times, I mean, you go through all that trouble to buy all those toys, and then you give the credit to Santa Claus, and then a week later, those toys are a lost memory. Kids that moved on to something else.
You walk around the house, there go an arm or part of a wheel on the truck. Yeah, you know what? One thing though, I want to say before you get too far down, because you jog something in my mind when you say about, you know, and when we're talking about cooperative economics and buying amongst themselves, why, to some people, that sounds like a bad word when black folks start talking about, you know, spending their money amongst themselves and doing for themselves and having our own. To some people, that equates to something, you know, negative, to where he's a militant, or he's this, or he's a separatist, or he's speaking this or spewing that, this kind of jargon. Why does it take on that type of face sometimes? You know, when people just say, hey, you know, is there a problem with wanting to be independent and not to be dependent on the system for everything, to where we pull our dollars together and start speaking on, hey, circulating them dollars amongst themselves? Why does that become an issue with some people? And why they become threatened when people, you know, with vigor start talking that type of language? That don't make no sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just go ahead. You know?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with us being in a mindset that has been given to us by Jim Crow and colonialism. I mean, I looked at something that I got from Dr. Whitaker the other day, and it was really about how there's two countries. I think it was Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo signed over their mineral rights for cobalt and copper to the United States.
To the United States?
To the United States, yes. They, Madam Chimbori Quao She was on the rampage the other day because
I know she was.
She was talking about a summit that they had in the United States that brought all these African leaders in. And the point that she was making was that there was no agenda. You know, it's like these leaders are just so happy to be invited to the table that they come and there's no plan. And when they come to this country, they just basically get told what the United States is going to do. But when you look at Africa and you look at all the wealth and the treasures that are there, they should be setting the terms for agreements and negotiations and whatnot. But they come here, you know, just because they're happy to be invited to the table, and they give away the power that they have. I think part of the issue is the fact that you have leadership in some of these countries that are so willing to sell out, and many times it's for their own personal gain, and it doesn't represent the needs and the benefit that could come to the people and the citizens of those countries. So, you know, I just want to dial back to the whole idea of sovereignty, of independence. You know, we're afraid to be about ourselves because whenever we stand up for black people, whenever we stand up for Africans, it's always deemed to be something that's racist. But then on the other hand, the Irish can be all about the Irish. The Italians can be all about the Italians. The Ukrainians can be all about the Ukrainians. But when black people are about black people and Africans, all of a sudden it's a problem.
Yeah, see, here's the thing, and I know we're finna go into a break here. We don't even have to do one if we don't want to. But here's the thing, though. See, you have to, you know, this has been a long-running and long-standing problem, what you just said here, you know. And if we reflect back to, you know, to Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and when he talked about even when countries wanted to do the right thing, bad things happened, okay? Bad things happen to people. You know what I mean? It's almost like a buck breaking. You know what I mean? When somebody get up here and stand up and want to do the right thing, bad things. Let's call it out for what some of it is. You know what I mean? Because some folks ain't stupid. You know, most folks ain't stupid. So what I'm saying here, if you get what I'm saying here, man, this ugly arm of the powers that be is deep. And they gonna say they're gonna dictate policy regardless. It's a serious happening. It's gonna have to happen in order for us to lose this grip. You know, the Bible speaks about the great whore, you know, that calls many to fornicate with her, going to and fro, seeking who he can devour. This ugly hand of colonialism, this ugly hand of you know, I'm just gonna say the America and the like, you know, have put so much evil and corruption in place to where folks are almost have to do what they want to say. Now, like you just said, they come over here with no agenda, okay? And they go because America knows that if China locked down everything in America, you know, they soon gonna be the number one economy on the planet. So now America, with you know, taking their time and making relationships with Africa, they go and call this summer, and they're going to get piece of the action because they don't want China, you know, because they know what America always say, as far as their interest is concerned, you know, it could be threaten their interest, America's interest, if China gets all the natural resources and they are out of the cobalt or whatever. This is the evil that is going on this planet that we turn our head because we living in a few little amenities and you know, got a house and flat screens and stuff, and we don't see the evil that is actually going on, man. And so these guys will come in without an agenda and sign over their mineral rights and probably got a couple quarters just for doing that. You know, that tells you, man, it's deep. It's really deep, man.
Well, it's a memorandum of understanding. So, you know, it's not set in stone that it's going to happen, but the wheels are in motion for that to happen. You know, I just want to point that out. The other thing that Madam Chiambore Aquao, she pointed out was that the Chinese, they have kind of adapted to the best ways to do business with the folks in Africa in a way that America hasn't. And that's why countries in Africa are turning to China and they're turning to Russia because they can negotiate better terms. So, it's just one of those things, you have to look
arrogance.
At it's arrogance. It's this whole idea that white folks are superior to everyone. And therefore, we should be happy just because they invited us to participate in their plans. But we have to embrace the idea of the second principle, which is Kujichagulia. There has to be self-determination. There has to be sovereignty. And I think that there are some folks on the continent who do understand this, but then there are others who are willing to sell their souls or sell their countries out in exchange for a buck, as you said. Another thing that I want to talk about, since we're talking about economics, is financial literacy, because that's another one of the ways that they get to us. We have this idea that the American way is for us to go to these educational institutions that have significant deficits. So if you go through 13 years of school, I'm including kindergarten in those first 13. If you go through those 13 and you don't learn anything about financial literacy, then you're already handicapped. They're not going to give you information that you can use to empower yourself. So as a result, you end up being a slave to debt for the rest of your life. Many of us, we go through those 13 years and then we decide, I'm going to go to college. Well, you go to college and you're going to rack up debt that is unforgivable. If you declare bankruptcy, you still got to pay that student loan debt. It's still that way. And, quiet as it's kept, the greatest asset that this country has is America's student loan debt. So there's a lot of things that we need to unpack about that. But at the same time, we're facing this thing that they're calling the Great Reset. And there's going to be an adjustment to America's economy involving its currency. They're going to switch from the cash society that we have right now into a cashless society. Quiet as it's kept, only 3% of the money in circulation in this country is actual physical currency. The rest of it is digital information on a ledger system. And as we have this conversation, the Federal Reserve Bank and the United States government is working on a plan to convert dollars to federal dollars. It's going to be called the Fed coin. And you're going to have a digital wallet, and they're going to have complete control of your money, all the money that's in that system. So, you've heard the spots that we run on this station from time to time. I've sponsored a commercial where I'm telling people about opportunities for passive income. And you may not be aware of it now, but I promise you, in a year, you're going to wish that you had jumped into this, because you're going to be on the outside looking in, and they're going to have complete control of your money. If you're not looking at being in decentralized finance, where there is no discrimination based on your identity, you're going to be stuck in a system that created the paradigm of discrimination and will perpetuate that paradigm of discrimination. Many folks don't know that our economic system is a Ponzi scheme. If you know anything about fractional reserve banking, when you go to the bank and you bring them $100, the bank has credit for $1,000. They didn't fabricate or print $900. They just have credit for those additional $900. And what they do with that extra money is they lend it to someone, and they charge interest on it, and they charge fees, and that's how they make that money. So when you understand that the America gave itself a $1.7 trillion raise last week, and that $1.7 trillion is actually your money, but now your level of debt has increased. It's just one great big Ponzi scheme. So it's in your best interest to understand economics, to do things that you can do to create additional income in addition to what you get from your slave job. Because with inflation being what it is, you're going to pay more and get less and this is happening to us right now.
Yeah, that is true, and that's been the thing that has offered the crutch for black folks forever. Those not knowing, and not us, our kids and family members having to start from ground zero every time, and not building upon anything. Of course, yes, there's been barriers and roadblocks that have inhibited us from actually taking advantage of some economic windfalls and gains and things like that. But it's to a point that, we have to start thinking in those terms. Each generation should be building on the next generation. I was putting some things together and talk about if at the very least, and starting some of this economic upturn, hey, leave the family a house, to where the kids can, maybe live rent-free right now while they try to, build some other economic strength somewhere else. If it's your goal just to say, hey, I want to leave them a free and clear house, But see, here's the problem, when you leave here, because you might have had the fortitude and the knowledge to build an economic base, but your kids haven't. So they go and you leave them something, and then they squander the money and just blow it all away. And so we have to start really, like you said, from the kindergarten to the first grade, making them understand the dollar and economics and how the whole system works. I believe you got to tie it all in like that too. Just how this whole economic system works, and that's why we have always been on the bottom and having people, and we've been dependent. Our scholars say we can't consume our way out of this problem. You can't do it. You can't consume your way out of it because you everybody's toy. They just can play with you any kind of way because you don't do nothing and you don't make nothing.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that's a really important point, Brother Hamptonio, and I'm glad you raised that because it's a huge issue in our community right now as we look at the impact of gentrification. I mean, if you drive on the east side of Cleveland, you drive down the street, you see so many empty lots, and every one of those empty lots represents someone's legacy that has been destroyed. That house was torn down. And some investor, many of them are out of town, have purchased those properties, and they're going to build on those properties, and they're going to build houses that cost $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and the property values in those neighborhoods are going to go up. And the folks who live in those communities may not be able to afford the property taxes because they're on fixed incomes. That's grandma and grandpa who worked all those years to buy that house, and now all of a sudden, even though it's paid off, they can't afford it because they can't meet the property tax debt, And then when those houses get passed along, and then you got a family that's left behind to be responsible for the house. Nobody wants to be responsible for the house, so they just want to cash it in and get a couple of $1,000 and, go out and spend that money outside of the community, So it's, when you have that house, you bought that house and it's a family heirloom, so to speak, you have to educate those who come after you about the importance of maintaining it. Now we're at a point, bruh, I'm getting text messages on my phone. Somebody wants to buy my house.
Oh, man, come on now.
And
really?
you know what I do? If it's a text message, I just reply, lose my number. I ain't giving up this house. I'll rent it out before I give it to you to do the same thing, because that's what they're going to do. They're either going to rent it out and enjoy the profit margin that comes along with that, or they'll tear it down and build something else. I just happen to live in a community that has a homeowners association, and we have different bylaws. So all of our houses have to look essentially the same with a few variations. But basically, I can't just put up a brick house, tear my house down and put up a brick house, where I live right now. So there's a certain level of uniformity where we live. But in other situations, it's a little bit different. And they can, again, take that house down and put something else up, or, they can charge somebody $2,000 or $3,000 a month for rent. And if they're charging $2,000 or $3,000 a month for rent, it ain't going to be us paying that rent. It's going to be somebody else.
Yes. Yep. Okay, family out there. Yeah, we hit the ground running. but if you guys want to call in 578-1490, 578-1490, give us a call for something on the show that you can recall that you some information you think you got from the show that you thought was good and you want to share. I like to reflect back. Dr. Brown has been just a pillar, as far as the show and bringing great information, to us. We always have him around talking about the equinoxes and the solstices and what we need to do. And the brother's well-traveled, well-versed. I just respect him dearly, and always there when you need him, And I recall one of the things, too, when him and Dumasani got to talking about the power of the breath and the consciousness and how all that is related, and that really, helped with my journey of me understanding, who we are as far as internally and our connection to the planet and everything around us, you know what I mean? Because that's how our ancestors thought. They put everything together. I used to say, what's wrong with this country when they transposed or translated some of the scripts to English and used that word, God gave man dominion. I think in some sense of the word, this country interpreted that as I'm on the top of the food chain and I can do anything that I want to do, you know what I mean? Because I don't care about the trees, the planets, the plants, the air, and all that. God gave me dominion, and I'm the supreme here. But all indigenous people understood, man must live in harmony with the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom, So what is our connection? What are we vibing on? This something you go to YouTube and you hear them Tesla talk about. If you only want to understand God and the planet, you got to start talking about frequency, vibration, and energy. And everything is about energy. So if we all connected with that same type of thread of talking about energy and vibration, then what is this thing called? How do we tap into that? And I think that is so phenomenal and so important that if we get a good handle on that, man, I think we'll look at this thing called life in a whole nother light, a whole nother direction. Your thoughts?
So I want to reflect on some of the things that I've learned from the school of Dr. Brown, and one of the most significant things is understanding the difference between our human side and our divine side. When we embrace the idea that we are divine beings having a human experience, then we begin to understand that the way that the thing that we call God or the Creator experiences what it has created is through us. So therefore, we have an obligation to be custodians of what was created. And when you look at what's going on in this world, you'll see that many of us who have been appointed as custodians are destroying the planet. And then you have all these folks who want to devise a scheme or plan to be able to control everything, to control all the resources and hoard everything for themselves. But at the root of all of this is just that understanding of our divinity. The other thing is existing in a place where all the things that can challenge us are simply exercises for us to have an opportunity to meet those things in peace. We may not necessarily be able to control certain external things, but we can control our reaction to those things. So life becomes a measure of your ability to connect with your divinity and exercise an ability to meet all challenges in peace. One of the ways that we get to that side of ourselves is through meditation. We control our breath. We go from that beta state into the alpha state. And in the alpha state, we can have those conversations with ourselves that suggest to us or suggest to our spirit the things that we would like to set intentions about. This is what we did last week during the winter solstice, because it is a time in which our spirit is most receptive to the things that we can suggest. But it's not just those 4 days of the solstice. It's actually, through January. I think it's somewhere around January 17th, and things that you just want to keep as a part of your practice so that you can maximize what will happen to you in the coming year. If you wait until January 1st, it's too late. You should have been doing this, during the solstice, because it's a very important time with respect to the cycles of nature. So those are two things that really stand out about conversations that we've had with Dr. Brown. And I don't think that we can mention these things enough. I think that it has to be a perpetual state in our mind state so that we can maximize our effectiveness as beings on this earth. I want to flip things and bring up someone that you brought to the table, and that is Dr. Craig Woodson. So if you could, and this is what's happening, folks. We didn't have guests on today, so Brother Hamptonio, I'm his guest, and Brother Hamptonio, he's my guest. So I'm going to throw a few things at you. So let's invoke a conversation about your dear friend and brother, Dr. Craig Woodson.
Yes, yeah. Very, very, very interesting guy, very interesting guy. He's president of ASALA here, which is founded in 1915, if I'm not mistaken. And, they're following some of the desires and hopes that Dr. Craig Woodson, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, wanted, our inclusion into American history and world history, Black history. And he's a part of that. And later on in his life, he found that, he was a Woodson, and the connection that he made with our dear brother Carter G. Woodson. And he worked extensively to try to put the two families together and apologize for their roles and their connection with slavery and things of that nature, and has been really going out of his way to apologize for that, and also putting things together and putting programs together. And so we want to reach out and to take this time to reach out to join ASALA. I'm a part of it as well, and it's basically there. Yeah, you got to pay your dues and things, and there's a lot of very influential people in there. I think one time I mentioned it to Brother Small. He said he is thinking about joining it too. Got a lot of very influential people that is a part of. I think it's like 40-some chapters across the country, and it's all just about expressing African American culture and history out there, just putting programs together. So you guys want to work with us and come up with your own ideas of putting programs out there, come on and join ASALA. The membership is open. I think it's like $80 or $90, $100 a year or something to that nature. So, but it's, we spend a lot of money on a lot of insignificant things, because based on what we seeing every day going on our street, we got to get people out there ringing our bell, telling our story more and more to change our consciousness.
Yes. So ASALA, for those who don't know, is the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And you were correct. It was established in 1915 by Carter G. Woodson. I think it's really important because folks may not know that Craig Woodson, a descendant of Carter G. Woodson, is actually of European descent as well. So, when you look at Craig Woodson, it's not like you're looking at the spitting image of Carter G. Woodson. But in the last program that we did with Dr. Woodson, Dr. Craig Woodson, he talked about being in Ghana, I think it was, and there was a drum circle going on, and you could either dance or drum. And I wanted to ask Dr. Craig Woodson, if he could dance. I didn't get to that. Perhaps in a future conversation with him, I will ask. But he just happens to be an ethnomusicologist, and he just happened to be immersed into the culture of the drum. So when he started drumming, he was using the correct hand positions. He was playing the rhythms as authentically as they could have been played. And they were just so enthused and so joyful that he was where he was and he was doing what he was doing that they started just showering him with money. That's a beautiful thing to illustrate the fact that we are one family, you know. And a lot of times we look at the color of someone's skin and we instantly enemize them just because of the way they look. But you can't look at a person and know what's in their head just by looking at their exterior. So the point is we are all one family. And it's just beautiful that he is engaged as he is as engaged as he is in the history of African Americans and Africans all over the world. It's just a beautiful thing. So, yeah, I think, you know, it's a small price to pay for something that is so beneficial because it's just so necessary for us to know our history in order for us to know who we are and to know what we are supposed to be doing, because that's the missing element. You know, when we talk about, you know, what Dr. Brown shares with us and others, you know, it all comes down to purpose. You know, one of the big questions that we should be asking ourselves and answering is the question, why am I here? And if you don't know why you're here, then your life is, you know, it's a useless life.
I just said that to my daughter today. I gave her a little, you know, speech today about it. You know, that's what it's all about. You hit it on the head. Purpose. Why I'm here? You know, why? You know, what's the purpose? What's the connection? You know, we got to ask that why question like that. And I mean, going around and acquiring all this material stuff. And I mean, every prophetic person that you know, that people raise up as, you know, as such, you know, they'll tell you right out, it ain't about the material wealth. It ain't. It never was that. Those who you Bible readers out there, what Solomon said, I had everything that your heart can desire, and it was vanity, meaningless. So there's a greater purpose. He said, what Solomon say? Hey, I pray for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. I'm gonna go a little more scriptural on you. You know, when we talk about all of that, you know, they talk about ye are gods and being, you know, in the likeness. You know, what is he saying? And when we talk about being born again, Jesus only mentioned that one time. But what has he mentioned throughout the whole New Testament? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven. You go through all the disciples, they talk about the kingdom of heaven. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. What is he talking about? What is this all about? Genesis 32 and 30, when he talks about, for I've seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And he called the name of the place where he's seen God, Peniel. What is he talking about? Greater he that's in you that is not in the world. God don't dwell in temples made with hands. What is he talking about? You know, over all the temples in Egypt, it said, man, know thyself. It didn't say get a big screen TV, get a nice ride or a house. It's trying to tell you what your purpose is. Seek your purpose. That's what it says, Vince.
As above, so below. So when we think about that place that folks call heaven, they're thinking of it as in terms of being a location, a mythical place, you know. But as I heard you pronounce those words, I was thinking, well, you know, that sounds like a place of understanding, and all these things shall be added unto you. They're added unto you because you have the knowledge and awareness of how to attain them, you know. And then another valuable gem that you dropped is about happiness. You know, people have this false idea that things are going to make them happy. So when I get that Escalade, I'm going to be happy. When I get that 5-bedroom house, I'm going to be happy. You know, you one or two people, you got 5 bedrooms, and all 5 bedrooms have to be cleaned, and all those bathrooms have to be cleaned, and that great big yard that you got, it's got to be cut, you know, and you got to have the resources to handle all of that stuff. So what you find out, just like B.I.G. said, more money, more problems. You know, it's not things that make you happy. First of all, we need to live in a state of perpetual gratitude, because it's the gratitude that will bring you happiness in life. It's the relationships that you have with other people that will bring happiness in your life. It is you living in your purpose and living out Ubuntu. You know, the fact that we exist for the benefit of others, an African principle. When you live in those places, then you're going to find true happiness.
Yeah, Nia, purpose.
Nia is
one
purpose.
Of the Kwanzaa principles. Yes, one of the Kwanzaa principles. And the sooner we understand that and really start looking inward, you know, God don't dwell in temples made by hand. He resides in you. You are a part of him, and he a part of you. You know, so I mean, that's the journey that I'm on right at this particular point, because in the travesty is that, you know, one going through their whole life not understanding, not understanding that, or even seeking that particular realm of knowledge. You know, is one thing is not to know, then it's another not to want to know. You know, and a lot of us have segued over into that, not even interested, and not even I don't even want to know nothing about nothing. I don't want nothing to know nothing about what's going over in Africa, or these people, you know, they can't take care of themselves. They let somebody come over. I was watching the debate when this dude was just talking about, oh, they let somebody just come over, or they weak men. Dude, you don't even know the history. You don't know about all the conflicts, and even that, you know, that Africans have fought back and tried it. But, you know, just like everything else, this man has went around. He only makes up 12% of this world population. Tell me how he run the whole damn thing. Tell me how he able to do that. So, you know, you just can't look at Africa and he's running this, he's running that. They're all over the place running. So just don't look down at them and looking at the African situation and say, why aren't they doing a better job of standing up, man? There's another force, like I said before, there's another force out here that is causing, this type of thing that is going on right now. You know, and it's going to take some time for us to rise up out of the grips of this corruption and this ugliness, man. It's going to take some time.
Yes.
And everybody is victim of it.
Right. So I'm just looking through a number of posts, because we archive the show on my YouTube channel. And if you want to see or hear past episodes of 360 Info Network, you can just go to Vince Robinson on YouTube and look up the videos, and you can scroll through a number. There's probably... we're coming up on 200 videos that have been posted. Not all of them are 360 Info Network, but you can take a look back at shows that you might be interested in. We have addressed physical health, and we have addressed mental health. One of the healers that we had on was Dr. Trenayce Talbert. She actually has a practice, as far as I know, still downtown in one of the arcades down there. But she brought to us these ideas about quantum healing. She also uses sound therapy. She uses hypnosis. And, I learned within the past couple of weeks about the gamma state. When you are in the gamma state, it's a level below the alpha state. And when you're in the gamma state, you can actually work out things that, involve past trauma and stuff, because, a lot of the traumas that we go through as beings on this earth affect us from childhood all the way through our transition. So if you can address those things in the gamma state, you can actually reverse the negative impact on yourself. Now, allopathic medicine does not engage in these types of things. Allopathic medicine, and again, another thing that I've learned from Dr. Brown, but allopathic medicine is something that is good in addressing critical care issues. So, Someone is in a tragic car accident and they suffer, extensive critical injuries. Then the allopathic medicine can go in there, those practices and procedures and surgeries and so forth and so on, and get you back together. But one of the primary forces in your healing is actually your own body. This wasn't on this program, but a few weeks ago I interviewed a woman who was in 2 wrecks in one day. Her car was struck by a drunk driver, and the car was dragged. I think it was somewhere in East Cleveland, and it got dragged to just for miles. And when it finally came to a rest, it got dragged because it came to rest on the train track, and the train hit the car. So,
boy.
Yeah. So she said that when they found her, that her nose was on the side of her face.
Oh, my God.
She had a broken hip. She had a broken leg. She had to have surgery that morning, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and the surgeon had already done a couple of surgeries that day. They had to repair her aorta, so they went into her groin, and they took some tissue, and they rebuilt her aorta. The surgeon told her on that night, she said, "I'll give you 10 years. 30 years later, she's still here." While she was going through her rehabilitation process, they wanted to amputate one of her hands, and they wanted to amputate one of her legs, and she said no. Her name is Cynthia Lewis, and you can find her story on my YouTube channel if you're interested. It's a riveting story. But the whole point of it is the human body is capable of far beyond you could ever imagine in terms of its ability to heal itself. And you have to have faith in yourself, and you have to have that connection with the Creator in order to facilitate that. And again, one of the ways that you can achieve that progress, that power, is through hypnosis and hypnotherapy. So I highly recommend looking up Dr. Trenayce Talbert. I'm going to post her website in the rebroadcast of this show. But I think it's awakenthehealing.com is her website, awakenthehealing.com, and you can learn more about that and take advantage of what she can offer you. Because, when you look around, Brother Hamptonio, when you look around at our folks, you see folks get up in age, and their mobility is impaired, and the body is in a state of decay and disrepair, and we don't do the things that will enable us to enjoy a better quality of life. There's simple things that we can do.
60, 70 is not old. 60, 70, 80 is not old. Right. It's not old.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And you don't have to be old. When I was in Ghana a few years back and I saw a funeral notice, and I took a picture of it because it was so remarkable. There was a brother sitting up on a throne of sorts, and he transitioned at the age of 120. So if you 60 years old, you just halfway there, So that means that you need to eat good food and the right food. It means that you need to do some type of exercise on a regular basis. They're just basic things that you can do. And it's never too late. You could be 60, 70 years old and get a gym membership. And you don't have to lift weights like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Flex Wheeler or anybody like that. You can lift enough for your body, for what's appropriate for you. And I don't want to say reverse the aging process, because it's just part of life, from day one, I don't want to say it's all downhill, but there is going to be some regression, but then you can do things to support your health, taking in the things that Dr. Our friend down south, the neuroscientist T. Owens Moore suggests to us.
I was just about to bring him up. Yeah.
There you go. I'm gonna hand the baton to you, T. Owens Moore, Hamptonio.
I was going to say I will be remiss if we didn't mention, and reflect back on our dear brother T. Owens Moore that spoke on the melanin and how important that is, and how it deals with energy, and how melanin is in everything, and even in the plants, it's something that we has been a void in us understanding. I say this real quick. If black absorbs energy, and everything is about energy, and you talk about those vibrations and those you're dealing with X-rays and things of that nature. You need to, as a black person, you need to have a conversation with your doctor when you start talking about X-rays, because your physiology is different. So we got to get into the melanin. We'd be remiss if we leave our good brother Wayne B. Chandler, that's brought us such an array of information, from spirituality to finance, to breathing and techniques and taking care of the body, how it's related to everything around us. Our good dear brother, Brother Small, Professor James Small, is talking about spirituality and that connection and what our dear brothers and our ancestors had laid down and put together a long time ago, understanding this spirituality piece and what voodoo actually means, the essence of God and not what, has been bestowed upon us, and our relationship in Haiti and what Haiti has done. He spoke on that in 1804 pieces and stuff like that. He gave us so much information, and our good brother Kaba
Kameni. I was just writing his name down. Kaba Kameni.
Yeah. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, brother. So we got to cover.
No, I'll let you cover your brother Kaba.
Yeah. And, the brother just, is a teacher, man. And the way he just lays everything out, him and Brother Small just lays things out so where you can just understand, easily to understand in simple terms. He's been a teacher all his life. The brother, was talking to us about what's going over in Spain and how the Shabaka stone, how and some of his new discoveries and talking about the Shabaka stone and how it relates to everything, the origins of everything in the language and things like that. Our sister Baina Bella that talked about language and those connections. We just had so many powerful guests on the show.
Yes.
That was delivering so much good information,
right. Yeah, and there are folks of national prominence, and there are also folks here in our community. I'm looking at the show that we did on Ridall Green Partnership. We have folks who are growing quality food, nutritious food, and sharing that in the community, and they have international acclaim. They've done documentaries on Ridall Green Partnership. So
it's coming all over the world.
Yes.
European folks to come down there and check these brothers out right there on Kinsman. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we got to acknowledge that and take advantage of that. Yes. And I have to say this to my good brother that I went to Africa with, Dr. Charles Finch.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Charles Finch. I can't forget that brother as well. Very deep brother. He got a few YouTubes on. And Brother Quasi. Oh, my God. Brother Aswan Quasi. Mm-hmm. So the list goes on and on.
Malefi Asante, Dr. Leonard Jeffries. Lord. And we cannot fail to mention Dr. Qua David Whitaker, Nana Kra Kwame II. I did mention him earlier, but I definitely want to give him his propers because Nana is in a place now where he just doesn't care who hears what he has to say.
That's what you should say about older people.
That's right.
It's always a grandma, she just got so bitter. They don't care no more. See, they going to talk how they feel. And that's what that brother Whitaker is at this point,
They have nothing to lose because they have everything they could ever need and then more. He is the epitome of African America. He went to Africa. They asked him. He became a chief. He built a community center in the village of Atonkwa that's far exceeded the expectations that they've had for that structure. I've been in it myself. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. In addition to that, they built a school. It's a preschool right there in the village. Dr. Yvonne Pointer has been instrumental in supporting that, but there have just been a lot of good things that have come out of that relationship. And it shows you the fact that there is a cooperative spirit between Africans in the diaspora and Africans who are on the continent. We must fully understand that we are all authentically African. whether we have a conscious awareness of it or not. We're all Africans. You know, we can dispel with, well, what are we going to call ourselves? Are we going to call ourselves black? Are we going to call ourselves this? Call ourselves that? You know, I just want to invoke the spirit of Dr. Runoko Rashidi, my dear brother, you know, and he will tell you, just because I wasn't born in Africa doesn't mean I'm any less. I am an African, and we all are. And basically, everybody on the planet has a connection because mankind came out of Africa. So embrace it. Don't be ashamed. Don't be scared to say I'm African because, you know.
It ain't nothing to be ashamed of at all.
You know, I love my brother Smokey Robinson, but he did that video a few years ago, and I'm like, oh, Lord, he's like, don't call me African. I'm like, bruh, come on now, wake up. Wake up.
Yeah, man, that gets you sometime when you see that, man, but we hope the light will start to shine, and like I said, it may or may not be for everybody, though. But, you know, and you could claim it all. You know, you could claim the states. Yeah, we were over here. We was all over this planet doing things, you know, so... Yeah, but, you know, as of right now in modern times, we all centralize it there in Africa, you know, so it's okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You're gonna want to be a part of that sometime in the future because new things and new information is coming out where you're going to want to be connected to Africa. Trust me when I say that.
Oh, yeah. You know, there's a boom that's going on right now when you look at the continent, you know. Just within the past few weeks, I think Ghana has opened up its borders, and now they're allowing you to come into the country without having to get a jab. You know, you're still required to take a test, but they want to make it easier for folks to come back home, and it's going to be, or it's already booming over there. I mean, there's just a lot of development happening there. So once again, we're running out of time. We just have a few moments left. Just want to remind everyone about the Kwanzaa that's going to take place over at Kings and Queens of Art, 1385 East 34th Street. Want to say big ups to Tone. Welcome back, brother. And to all of those of you who are out there, know yourself. Love yourself. Be yourself. Make today your best day, folks. Peace.
Peace.